The unexpected ally. The moment I saw Kenneth Wright stride into the conference room in his $3,000 Brioni suit, I knew he was going to be insufferable. His reputation preceded him: billionaire tech investor, ruthless negotiator, and notorious for his demeaning tests of other executives. Today was Thursday, the day that would either save Horizon Technologies or sink it entirely. And I, as its founder and CEO, had exactly one shot to get this right. Alex Chen, Wright said, extending his hand with the practiced confidence of someone who had never worried about making rent. Finally meeting the wunderkind of wearable medical tech. I forced a smile. Mr. Wright. Thank you for coming. We're excited to show you what Horizon has to offer. He glanced around our hastily prepared conference room. We'd spent the morning making our modest startup headquarters look as professional as possible, but there was no hiding the water stain in the corner ceiling tile or the slightly mismatched chairs we'd borrowed from other offices in the building. Before we begin, Wright said, checking his watch, a Patek Philippe that probably cost more than my annual salary, I'd like to introduce my associate. She'll be sitting in on our meeting. That's when I noticed the woman hovering by the door. She was in her 50s, with salt and pepper hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore dark blue maintenance coveralls with Maria embroidered on the pocket, and she clutched a clipboard awkwardly against her chest. Wright gestured toward her. This is Maria Diaz. She'll be taking notes for me today. The woman gave a small, uncomfortable nod. Her eyes darted around the room, and I instantly recognized the look of someone who'd been put in a situation they never asked for. My team exchanged confused glances. Our CFO, Deepak, raised an eyebrow at me across the table. Our lead engineer, Taylor, was frantically tapping something into her phone under the table, probably texting me WTF. I maintained my professional smile. Of course. Welcome, Ms. Diaz. Please, have a seat. As Maria tentatively sat down, Wright leaned in close to me and whispered, She's the cleaning lady from my office building. Found her mopping the hallway this morning. Then, with a smirk that made my blood boil, $20,000 says your precious pitch falls apart with a non-business person in the room. And there it was. One of Wright's infamous tests. I'd heard stories about how he once made a startup founder pitch from the building's rooftop in the rain to test their dedication, or how he'd brought a child to evaluate if a gaming app was truly intuitive. But using a working-class woman as a prop in his power games? That crossed a line. That won't be necessary, I said quietly, fighting to keep my composure. Too late, Wright replied, sliding his phone toward me. On the screen was a banking app showing a pending transfer of $20,000 to Horizon Technologies with the memo, when you fail. He'd already set it up, the arrogant bastard. My team was watching this exchange with growing concern. We needed Wright's investment, $10 million, to take our medical wearable device into production. Without it, 3 years of research, countless late nights, and the medical solution that could help millions of patients monitor their health would evaporate. Let's begin the presentation, I said, nodding to Taylor to start the slides. As we launched into our pitch about Horizon's breakthrough device, a wearable patch that continuously monitors multiple vital signs and transmits data directly to healthcare providers, I couldn't help but notice Maria. While Wright was scrolling through emails on his phone, barely paying attention, she was actually listening. Really listening, with an intensity that surprised me. 20 minutes into the presentation, Wright interrupted. Your market analysis is optimistic at best, delusional at worst. The regulatory hurdles alone? Excuse me, Maria said suddenly, her voice so unexpected that everyone turned to stare. She flushed immediately, clearly startled by her own boldness. Wright looked annoyed. Yes? Sorry, but... She hesitated, then seemed to find her courage. This device, it monitors heart rhythms too, right? Not just blood pressure and sugar? Taylor nodded, surprised. Yes, it has a continuous EKG function that can detect irregularities. Maria's eyes lit up. My son, he has this condition, Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. His heart, it beats too fast sometimes. The doctors, they gave him this big monitor, but he hates wearing it. It's bulky, uncomfortable. He's 16, you know how teenagers are about looking different. She gestured to our sleek prototype. But something like this? This he would wear. The room fell silent. Wright was staring at Maria like she'd suddenly started speaking in tongues. How much would something like this cost? For patients, I mean, she continued. I cleared my throat. With insurance coverage, which we're working on securing, the out-of-pocket cost would be approximately $40 per month for the subscription service. Maria nodded thoughtfully. That's less than what we pay now for his current monitor. And this sends information directly to the doctor? No more driving across town every 2 weeks for them to download the data? Exactly, I said, suddenly energized. The real-time monitoring means doctors can see problems as they happen, not days or weeks later. For the next hour, the most remarkable thing happened. Maria asked questions, straightforward, practical questions that cut through the jargon and technical specifications. Questions about battery life, water resistance, skin irritation, data privacy, real concerns from someone who could actually envision using our product. Wright remained mostly silent, watching this unexpected exchange with an unreadable expression. My team adapted beautifully, directing their explanations to Maria, using clearer language, focusing on the human impact rather than just the business potential. By the time we finished the formal presentation, something had shifted in the room. Maria was nodding, a small smile playing on her lips. Thank you, she said simply. This could help a lot of people. Not just my son. Wright cleared his throat and finally spoke. Let's take a 10-minute break, shall we? Maria, would you mind getting us some coffee? The moment they left the room, my team huddled around me. What the hell is happening? Deepak whispered. He brought the cleaning lady to trip us up, I explained quickly. He bet me $20,000 our pitch would fall apart. That's messed up, Taylor said, shaking her head. Using her like that. I know, I agreed. But she's actually helping us? Did you see how engaged she was? More engaged than Wright, Deepak muttered. He barely looked up from his phone until she started talking. We quickly strategized how to handle the rest of the meeting, but when Wright returned, alone, his demeanor had completely changed. Where's Maria? I asked. I've sent her back to her regular duties, Wright said, settling into his chair. She has floors to clean, after all. The casual dismissal made my stomach turn. This woman had just provided more insightful feedback than most venture capitalists I'd pitched to, and he was treating her like she was nothing. Wright leaned forward. Let me be direct, Chen. Your technology is impressive, but unproven. Your team is talented but inexperienced. Your financial projections are ambitious but potentially unrealistic. My heart sank. Here came the rejection. However, he continued, you passed my test. Your test? I echoed. I bring someone unexpected to every major negotiation. Sometimes it's a janitor, sometimes it's my teenage nephew, sometimes it's a random person from the street. I want to see if the people I'm investing in can communicate their vision to anyone, not just to people with MBAs and tech backgrounds. He pulled out his phone again. Most fail miserably. They get flustered, they talk down to the outsider, or they ignore them completely. He looked up at me. Your team didn't do that. You adapted. You connected. You showed respect. I wanted to feel relieved, but all I felt was anger. So Maria was just a prop in your little experiment? Wright's expression hardened slightly. Maria Diaz has worked in my building for 7 years. I pay her twice the market rate, and I covered her son's initial cardiac procedures when insurance wouldn't. Don't presume to know my relationship with my employees, Mr. Chen. Before I could respond, the conference room door opened, and Maria returned, this time without her clipboard. She walked directly to Wright and handed him a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" he asked. "The questions you should be asking them," she replied confidently, then turned to me. "I hope your device can help my Matteo. Good luck." She left as quietly as she'd arrived. Wright unfolded the paper and read silently for almost a full minute. Then he looked up at me with newfound interest. "Maria suggests I ask about your manufacturing scalability, your data security protocols, and your plans for international regulatory approval." He raised an eyebrow. She also notes, and I quote, "They need to talk more about how this helps people who can't afford good insurance. That's the real market they're missing." My team and I exchanged surprised glances. "She's right," I acknowledged. "We've been so focused on the traditional healthcare market that we haven't fully explored accessibility options for underinsured populations." Wright nodded slowly. "Let's discuss that, then." And the other points Maria raised. The next 2 hours were the most intense, productive business discussion of my career. Wright was still demanding and critical, but now he was engaged, challenging us on substance rather than style. By the time we wrapped up, I felt mentally exhausted but cautiously optimistic. "I'll have my team draw up the paperwork," Wright said, standing up. 12 million, with the stipulations we discussed. I blinked. 12? We were asking for 10. The extra 2 are contingent on you developing that sliding scale payment program for low-income patients. Maria was right, that's an untapped market, and more importantly, it's the right thing to do. I stood up, almost dizzy with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Wright." He nodded curtly. "Don't thank me yet. I'm going to be an extremely demanding investor." He headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Chen? About our bet." My stomach dropped. I'd completely forgotten about his cruel $20,000 wager. "I'm transferring it now," he said, tapping on his phone. "A gentleman always pays his debts." Your pitch didn't fall apart, quite the opposite. As Wright left, my team erupted into celebration. High fives, hugs, and even a few tears flowed freely. We'd secured the investment we needed, and then some. Horizon Technologies would live to fight another day. But something still didn't sit right with me. "I'll be right back," I told my team, and hurried out of the conference room. I caught up with Wright at the elevator. "Mr. Wright, about that $20,000. A deal's a deal, Chen. You won fair and square." "That's not what I took a deep breath. "Where can I find Maria? I'd like to thank her personally." Wright studied me for a moment, then nodded slightly. "9th floor. She's probably finishing up the executive bathrooms about now." 20 minutes later, I found Maria wiping down sinks in a bathroom nicer than my apartment. When she saw me in the mirror, she turned around with a surprised smile. "Mr. Chen, did you get the investment?" "We did. 12 million. Her face lit up. "That's wonderful. Congratulations." "Thanks to you," I said sincerely. "Your questions changed everything." Wright was ready to dismiss us until you spoke up. She waved a hand dismissively. "I just asked what any mother would want to know." "And those questions you wrote down for him?" "Those were incredibly insightful." "Do you have a background in business?" Maria hesitated, then sighed. "MBA from Stanford, class of '99. I was a product development director at Johnson & Johnson for 11 years. I stared at her in shock. "What? Then why are you cleaning bathrooms?" She smiled sadly. "My husband got sick, cancer. I needed flexible hours, good insurance. After he died, I had Matteo to take care of alone. His heart condition requires expensive care. This job pays well, has excellent benefits, and lets me be available when my son needs me." She shrugged. Life happens, Mr. Chen. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. This brilliant woman had been reduced to a prop in Wright's power game, and I had gone along with it. I'm sorry, I said, for how Wright treated you today. Using you as part of his test, it wasn't right. Maria's expression softened. Kenneth and I have an understanding. This wasn't the first time he's asked me to sit in on meetings. What? She laughed at my confusion. Who do you think gave him the idea for these tests in the first place? I've been his informal advisor for years. He values my perspective precisely because I see things differently than his usual crowd. My mind was reeling. So today wasn't? Oh, it was definitely one of his tests, she clarified. But not just for you. For him too. He needs regular reminders to look beyond the surface. She checked her watch. I should finish up here. My shift ends soon, and I promised Matteo I'd make it to his basketball game. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Actually, before you go. I showed her the notification of Wright's $20,000 transfer to Horizon's account. This money doesn't belong to us. Wright made a bet with me that our pitch would fail with you in the room. Maria's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed. That sounds like Kenneth. I'd like to give it to you, I said. For your son's medical expenses. She stiffened immediately. I don't need charity, Mr. Chen. It's not charity, I insisted. It's a consulting fee. You provided expert product feedback that will make our device better for patients like Matteo. You deserve compensation for that expertise. She considered this for a long moment. I can't accept $20,000 for asking a few questions. What about this? We're going to need beta testers for our device. Real people with actual cardiac conditions. Would Matteo be interested? It's a paid position, of course. Now her eyes lit up. He would love that. He's actually quite tech-savvy. Great. And we'll need a parent consultant to help us develop the family interface components. Someone with business experience who understands both the medical and practical concerns. I held her gaze. It's a part-time position. Flexible hours. Pays around $20,000 for the initial consultation period. Maria's lips twitched into a knowing smile. Very clever, Mr. Chen. I learned from the best today, I replied sincerely. So, do we have a deal, Ms. Diaz? She extended her hand. Call me Maria. And yes, we have a deal. 6 months later, Horizon's first production run of medical wearables went out to beta testers across the country. Matteo Diaz was our star tester, providing weekly feedback videos that our engineering team considered gold. Maria had transitioned from part-time consultant to our full-time director of patient advocacy, a position Wright himself had suggested creating. And me? I learned the most valuable business lesson of my career: never underestimate anyone in the room, especially if they're holding a mop. The end.